The LA Clippers reached a franchise milestone this season, advancing to the conference finals for the first time in their 51-year history. But for this version of the Clippers, a team led by two-time Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard, the end goal has always been bigger than that.
I don't care about the Western Conference Finals. I'm trying to win a championship.
Between Leonard's comments, a conference finals lost, a Western Conference that's getting more crowded at the top, and the Clippers having limited assets to improve their roster, there's some worry in Los Angeles. After all, Leonard, who's currently recovering from knee surgery, can opt out of his contract's final year and become a free agent this summer. But fear not, Clippers fans. What the 2021 playoffs actually proved is that Kawhi's Clippers aren't far off from their goals. So here's why the Klaw isn't going anywhere. The Clippers, like many teams in the playoffs, were derailed by injuries. Veteran big man Serge Ibaka only played the first 2 games of their first round series win versus Dallas before being sidelined for the rest of the postseason by a nagging back injury. In the next round against a top-seeded Jazz, it was Leonard who injured his knee while on a fast-breaking Game 4. With the series tied at 2 and their superstar closer potentially out for the rest of the playoffs, the Clippers were obviously dead in water. Or not, they reeled off 2 wins in a row against the Jazz, including a 25-point comeback in Game 6, led by Terrence Mann's career high of 39 points and Reggie Jackson's 25.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
The Clippers, who have been known for blowing seemingly insurmountable leads in the playoffs, had just done what so many other teams had done to them, becoming the only team in NBA history to come back from down 2-0 twice in the same postseason. Then, while short-handed in the conference finals, the Clippers put up a resilient effort against the Suns, taking them to 6 games without the help of Leonard and Ibaka, as the Clippers received big contributions from a group of castaways like Jackson, Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, DeMarcus Cousins, and Nick Batum along the way. And despite falling short in the playoffs again, the Clippers came out of the 2021 postseason more resilient. They had found an identity.
I just think leaving the bubble, leaving that behind, come into this season adapting, no excuses, next man up mentality, team mentality. And I think those guys got through a lot of tough times this season, just because of that. And we have a tough, gritty group, and sticking together and playing the way we play, things like this can happen. So hopefully we can build off this going into next season.
The Clippers, as a franchise, exercised decades worth of postseason demons, but one player in particular proved doubters wrong with his performance: Paul George. George's disappointing 2020 postseason led to a ridiculous amount of pressure for him to perform this time around, and he did. Through 19 playoff games, George averaged 26.9 points, 10 rebounds, and over 5.5 assists, while averaging his highest assist percentage in the postseason since he was a member of the Indiana Pacers. He also came up clutch, scoring 37 points in Game 5 against the Jazz to help the Clippers take the series lead, and dropping 41 points on the Suns to extend the series to 6 games. Whatever doubt there was around George's ability to be a co-star to Leonard has almost completely been eradicated. Which is why Kawhi, in all likelihood, won't even bat an eye about doing anything other than re-signing with the Clippers. Let's remember that Leonard chose to move from Toronto to Los Angeles in the first place to be closer to his home city of San Diego. But Leonard does have an interesting decision to make.
Kawhi Leonard going crazy.
Especially after having surgery to repair his partially torn ACL. There's no definitive timeline for when Leonard will return, and every player's recovery from ACL surgery is different. Best case scenario, Leonard follows the recovery timetable of Spencer Dinwiddie or Thomas Bryant, who both missed 60-plus games and resumed basketball activities after just 6 months of rehab following repairs of partial tears, leaving hope that the Clippers can still make a 2022 title run. The worst case scenario is Leonard's rehab takes much longer and it takes him a while to get back to form, like it did with Zach LaVine or Kristaps Porzingis, who both missed over a season, and the Clippers will have to wait until 2023 to become healthy contenders again. In all likelihood, Leonard will miss at least half of the 2021-2022 season, and knowing Kawhi, the founder of load management, he's going to take his time returning to the court. This is now the second significant leg injury in the past 4 years for the 30-year-old, who is owed more than $36 million next season if he opts into the final year of his contract. Kawhi has said in the past that declining his player option is the best decision for him if he stays healthy. But now he's not, which adds an interesting wrinkle to his decision this summer. If Leonard opts in, then signs a 4-year max extension worth $181.5 million, he'll make more than $217 million over the next 5 seasons. If he opts out to sign a new max with the Clippers, the most he can get is a 4-year, $176.2 million deal, or slightly less if he were to sign a 4-year deal with a new team, because LA doesn't yet own his full bird rights. Or Leonard could go the short-term route by declining his player option, signing a 2-year deal worth $80.6 million that contains a 2nd-year option, then declining that player option to become a 2022 free agent. At which point, he could sign the largest contract in NBA history, 5 years for somewhere in the neighborhood of $235 million. And while there's no guarantee that that kind of money will be around for Leonard in 2 years, given his age and injury concerns, the 2019 contract a 32-year-old Kevin Durant signed with the Nets while nursing an Achilles injury is a reminder that for a certain level of superstar, not even injury can derail a team's thirst. Coming off of surgery, Leonard will presumably opt for a deal that will give him as much guaranteed money in the long term as possible. But between the extra long-term money available to him as a Clipper and the comforts of home, good luck to any fan base hoping Kawhi's leaving. But what about the supporting cast?
What about the rest of you?
Even without Leonard, the Clippers have about $110 million committed to just 9 players next season, and could be over the luxury tax by enough once Kawhi does decide to return that it triggers the luxury tax apron. That makes it virtually impossible for them to improve through free agency or even a sign and trade opportunity. Though they do own a 2021 first rounder, which they can flip for more assets, the Clippers don't control their own first round draft pick until 2027 and can't trade a first rounder until 2028 because they sold the farm in their 2019 trade for George. And with Jackson and Batum, both free agents that are up for raises this summer, owner Steve Ballmer will have to decide how much money he's willing to spend on this team and which one of them he wants to bring back. In all likelihood, the majority of the same team is going to return next season. It's just going to take a lot of money to do so. There are ways to add a third quote-unquote star player to the duo of George and Leonard by taking on said player's bad contract. The Clippers could package together Luke Kennard's $12 million owed next season, with Marcus Morris's $15 million to take a swing at former Cavaliers All-Star Kevin Love and his $31 million contract. But do the Cavs really want to go from overpaying Love for another 2 years to overpaying Morris and Kennard for another 3 or 4? Add Rajon Rondo to that package, and the Clips could try to add newly minted Thunder guard Kemba Walker to the mix, who is most likely already on the trading block. But the rebuilding Thunder want draft picks if they're going to take on bad contracts, and the Clippers have no attractive picks to offer. A more ambitious trade would be targeting either Russell Westbrook or John Wall, who are each owed more than $44 million next season. But that would only work if you added Beverly's contract onto Kennard's, Morris's, and Rondo's, ultimately depleting the depth that had proved to be so important for the Clippers in the playoffs. And again, what's in it for Washington without picks to sweeten the deal? Most likely, the Clippers would have to attach Terrence Mann to any deal to even have a chance of sweetening the pot.
Oh man, really?
And with Leonard's injury, there might be even less of an incentive to trade for another massive contract to add to their books. Or they may have to succumb to the pressures and trade for one of the above stars purely to stay competitive without Leonard next season. They're in a tight spot, both from a money sense and a pressure standpoint. The West is only getting better, and the window of contention for a veteran roster with 2 injury-prone stars only closes further with each passing year. But the truth is that the Clippers don't have to bend over backwards trying to find that third star or much more help. They can essentially bring back the same team that just bowed out in the 2021 Conference Finals, wait until Leonard gets healthy, and hope George plays up to his overall capabilities as he did down the stretch of LA's most recent playoff run. The Clippers boasted a top 3 offense and a top 8 defense this season. Ty Lue once again proved his postseason mettle with his team's back against the wall. An all-star teammate and all-NBA caliber running mate in George is locked up long-term. And if it weren't for Leonard's injury, at a point where he looked like the best player in the playoffs, a finals trip was likely. Will the Clippers take a step back next season until Leonard gets healthy? Undoubtedly. But does Kawhi really walk away from a situation like that in his hometown? I say no way. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button.